Hello, my name is Leopoldo Armesto, and in this presentation I will introduce you the MultiSensor Shield. Let me first present you the outline of the presentation. I will give you or describe the features of the MultiSensor Shield, and then I will describe the pinout of this shield when you connect it to the Wemos D1 R32 board. And then I will give you some details, circuits that you have in the shield, and some examples that you can use to extend the possibilities of this shield with additional electronics. So let me first present you the features. It has two push buttons, it has two fixed LEDs, it has one RGB LED and one potentiometer. It also has a humidity and temperature sensor, an analog temperature sensor, and a light sensor, an LDR. It also has an infrared receiver, a buzzer, and a connector for I2C connections, and three additional pins, D7, D8, and A3, available for any purpose. So this is the pinout of the shield. Okay, on the left column you can see the name of the components, of each of the components that I've described. On the column in the middle you have the corresponding pin that it's mapped onto the Wemos D1 R32 board whenever you plug the shield on it. And then on the right column what you have is the name that you will see on the shield. Okay, so for instance, the push button on the shield you will see D2, but this pin will be actually connected to IO26 on the ESP chip. So here what I'm showing you is detailed circuits what you have on the board indeed. Okay, so the board, it's just simply one single board with all the components all together, but the equivalent circuit, it's the one I'm showing here. So the two switches are connected to D2 and D3 inputs, and whenever you push the button, the logic level goes to 0. Then we have the digital humidity temperature sensor, which is connected to D4, and it's just directly connected as you can see here. Then we have the buzzer, which is driven through a transistor, and it's connected to pin D5, and we can generate PWM signals on this pin in order to produce sounds. Then we have the red, blue and green LED. It's just simply an LED which is connected to D9, D10 and D11, and it has obviously three associated resistors to limit the current. Then we have two fixed color LEDs, one is red and the other one is blue, and they are connected to D12 and D13. Then we have a potentiometer which is connected to analog 0, and you can rotate it. And then we have also a light sensor which is the LDR, and it's connected to A1. And here we have the temperature sensor, the analog temperature sensor. It's connected to A2. Finally, with this board, what we can do is to connect extra components that we might be interested in using it in our projects, like for instance the OLED. So we can connect it to the I2C connector directly by connecting to the display to pins SDA and SCL. Equivalently, we can connect the barometric sensor pressure, which is also an I2C sensor, which means that we have to connect it also on these lines. Just worth it to mention that these buses, we can connect several components on the same bus line, so we can share these lines. Here we can see an example of how to connect the AC light dimmer. So, for instance, we can use the pins available for general purpose D7 and D8, and we can use the corresponding AC light dimmer circuitry, LED driver, and the LED itself. This is just basically used to dim and regulate the intensity of light. And here what we can see is how to connect, for instance, a relay, and we can connect it to A3. Remember that A3 is not specifically for analog, it's just simply an input for the ESP processor, which could be analog but could be also digital. So for instance, here we can control a relay, for instance, to activate or deactivate a fan. And finally, here we can use a moist sensor, in which we can use actually the same pin, for instance, to read the analog measurement. Well, in this presentation, I just have introduced you the MultiSensor Shield. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope to see you in my next presentation.